Get yourself together before it's too late.
Well, I guess we made it, ladies and gentlemen. At least through another year. A couple hours left for those of you on the East Coast. Some of you, if you're watching from overseas, it's already next year. We have a time anomaly going on, right? You're already there and we're in the past. It's good to see everybody. I wasn't sure that I was going to go on tonight, but I thought, you know what, I'll go on for an hour. It would be appropriate on this December 31st, 2022, which will never be back again. Let me turn the volume down to the background music because, you know, it's very slight when I'm listening to it, but when I watch the show a little bit later after the show, I usually put it on for a couple minutes just to hear what it sounds like. It's always louder. So in any case, let me put up the comment window in case any of you are trying to get a hold of me, telling me about the volume and such. Okay. Audio is low. Audio is low. I guess I'll have to turn it up. Oi, oi, oi. All right. Turning it up a wee bit. Epi. Good to see you. Epi from Scotland. And he is in 2023 already, right? I think you sound pretty damn good, Brian. Thank you, Sandy, and good to see you here. Good to see Joey, Kim. Geez, look like everybody's here. Karen, T-Bone. Hey, T-Bone. Great to see you. Karen, Kim. Just everybody's here. Joey, Max. Max, good to see you. Good to see everybody. I mean that. And whoever else is out there quietly watching, it's good to see you, even though I don't see you. All right. To top off, I do have a little bit of news for you. Not much, but I actually have some important news. A few days ago, I was talking with Dave's wife, just checking in. And while she was talking, she said, you know, Dave's motioning to me that he'll speak with me. So Dave spoke with me for about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, as much as he could. But he spoke with me. And it was just wonderful hearing from him. Just being able to speak with him. To sum up the conversation, he's trying very hard, and all Dave wants to be is himself when he gets there. He's got a few more weeks of some of the things that are going on to help him. So we'll see. He has his ups and downs. But the first thing he said was, I apologize for my disappearing act. I said, Dave, it's all right. I'm your friend. And I said, all of us care. You know, everybody on the show has been asking for you. We love you, Dave. And he appreciated that. And there's really not much more I can say. If there's any one thing you can take from that, as Dave said, he wanted to get back to being, he said, I want to be me. He's trying really hard, I can tell. But he could only speak for around 3 or 4 minutes. But for me, it was so uplifting to be able to speak with him and to say how much, you know, we care. So we'll wait and we'll see what happens. But I think it's just the fact that he was able to speak with me that he told his wife, listen, I'll speak with Brian. Just that he was able to do that encourages me. So, if you're the praying type, pray. And if you're not, I know you're concerned either way. So we keep going. And hopefully, sometime this year, Dave will be back. Just like it was in the past. Which I did want to bring up, because I did want to kind of go over some things that have happened in the past and how do we stand, and to talk about the year before things settle on down and ratchet on up after 12, right? Really nasty day out here. It's not cold. It's actually kind of warm, relatively, but just a terrible rain and a fog. It's like London, a London fog, but it's raining too. It's disgusting out. But it is New Year's Eve, and I'm sure that people will be out there, and that's their business. So, yeah. So, a happy New Year's Eve to everybody. And I'd like to take us back a little bit to, I think it was the end of December, the last show in December before January 1st. And oddly enough was entitled The Pessimist and the Optimist. And I was the pessimist and Dave was the optimist. So just, so in a certain sense, Dave is appearing tonight. It's good to have him here because even if it's in replay, I wanted to show you just a couple scenes. I think it'd be kind of nice. Let me get to the web here. And if you hear echo and all, just bear with me. All right. Check. Okay. So we'll just look back. This was our last show of last year.
Who you look, who you read, is between 63 and 66 degrees.
Incredible.
On January 2nd. Now, if it were to get up to, what is the record? I think the record is 69 on that date, and that was set like 150 billion years ago. My point is that, and we'll talk, this year, we're going to talk about a lot of things, obviously, we always do. But, I think I would like to establish tonight that, because I know, not only because we have a lot of people who are very interested in saving the climate, as we all should be, but of course, no matter what we say, no matter what we do on this show, the biggest danger to the world, of course, is climate. And I'm not going to use climate change anymore. I'm not going to use global warming. I like the new term. Sometimes they change it poorly. Like I think defund the police was one of the worst slogans ever.
Right. So that was the last show of last year. And I put that on because it has to have some relationship with right now, how things change. Some things are for the better for myself. I lost 47 pounds since that time. I don't really look it now, but if you saw me standing up and all, I did lose the weight. Still have a little bit of time to go. I was really down. At the time, Dave was going to be trying to be somewhat optimistic, and of course, we knew what happened to Dave. And it just goes to show you, if you look at it over a year's period, you see the change. From day to day, we see time differently. Just like, for example, when one is at work, you can stare at the clock and it just doesn't seem to move. And then, of course, when you're busy or enjoying something, time flies. And then there's this other thing when you look back at things and you say, oh, was that a year ago? You know? And you see how many changes there have been. And at that time, just prior to New Year's of last year, that was before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And, you know, we weren't to know that we were at risk of nuclear war and whatnot. In fact, that was one of the questions that I brought up. If you check out the community page on YouTube for this channel, and by the way, if anybody here is new to Divided We Stand, this is Divided We Stand. It was created 3 years ago in response to the fact that the Republican Party has been intransigent and unassailable. They don't negotiate, so there was no reason to be united with this group of people called Republicans. So we said until they change, we are going to be divided we stand. You have to take a stand. And hence this is Divided We Stand. So if you've not joined the Facebook group, we invite you freely to join. If you don't want to join, that's your business. And this is, of course, the YouTube channel, Divided We Stand. And again, if you're new to this channel, my name is Brian Weinstein. My co-host is David Price, who's out right now. But we appreciate your subscription, if you would. We don't ask for anything. This is not a monetized channel. We just want to commiserate and to be able to deal with the problems that arise from what I would call is just a mass frenzy that's going on in this country with Trumpers. And it's also happening, of course, in Russia. Talk about that later, if at all. So in any case, again, we would appreciate if you're new to this channel, if you like what you see, not me physically, but if you like the idea of commiserating, please join us. That's all I ask, right? So that was about a year ago, and we were not to know things were going to be happening this way. In fact, let me just give you a little rundown of what was kind of going on at that time. Let's see if I can. There we go. So, CNN. Check. CNN had a nice little clip here in pictures of 2022. I thought that was kind of a good way to look at things. So I'm going to just browse through some of these and show you some of these that I consider really, really important, and others we've probably forgotten. But here we go, January. New Year's. Last year, COVID restrictions were being lessened. Snow, which we won't see today, nor will we tomorrow. In fact, I'm not even sure we're going to see snow in January because I've looked at the 10-day forecast and we're going to be in the 60s and 50s here. This is just 20 to 25 degrees, warmer than usual. And then, of course, last year we had this situation in Virginia. There was a mess on the roads there. The new governor, I suppose. And we have Biden. And again, this is pre-Russian invasion. We didn't know it at the time. Now, these are just basic news events. I don't want to go through each of these, but here you see Omicron started coming out, the variant. People leaving their lands, crossing the Mediterranean to get the hell out of whatever's going on there, whether it's war or climate change. But all in all, in the beginning, it didn't seem like such a difficult year that we were going to face. At least not if you're in the United States. We had the Super Bowl. Who cares about that? A lot of people, but not so much myself. And then the Winter Olympics. Now, this was interesting because the Olympics were in China, and the Russians were amassing their troops along the border, but of course they weren't going to lay it on during the Olympics because they probably knew they were going to need China, or they feared that China might, go against them if they would upstage the Olympics with a war. I've forgotten the Olympics already. There was Macron. He was trying to negotiate with Putin. Notice Putin with the very long table here, ostensibly because he was afraid of the virus. Being in that bunker, he was safe, but when he's with somebody else, he got worried. Now here we're approaching the end of the Olympics. We're coming up into the 24th of February when the invasion began. Too many Olympics here. There you go. Capital of Ukraine, Kiev. That's when the invasion began. Saw all the horrible things that were occurring. Breyer left. Again, Ukraine. Let me go back to the original screen here. So, one thing has dominated so far this year, and that is the war in Ukraine. And in the first few weeks of the invasion, I think we were at our most anxietal point because there was that threat of nuclear war. And again, this is why I had that community question. And the question was, given these 3 or 4 different type of outcomes where human existence could end, which would be the most likely one? And in fact, I can bring that up here too, because I wanted everybody's opinion, because I know that many of you are still associated with climate change, which is, again, as Dave said last year, really, really important. But let's take a look at this, because I thought this was interesting. Which of these events is more likely to end human existence? That was the question. Now, we only had 9 responders, and that's fine. But it gives you some idea. Sometimes you don't need 400 people in a survey to determine the general feeling of the populace. Sometimes it can be fewer numbers when you try to find your target market. But in any case, it was interesting because you have a third of the people said thermonuclear war. The majority, but not a 50% majority, you had a thermal cataclysm, which of course would be climate change, and then finally a viral infection. I did add artificial intelligence. Some people believe that it'll get ahead of itself and then that will be the end of us. I personally can't vote on these because I create these, I would not have chosen AI at this point. I think in the future that could be a problem. And for me, just for me, and that doesn't matter, your vote's one that really counts. I always think about what is the most immediate problem. And for me, I would guess thermonuclear war is actually more prescient at the moment. Although we do know that in the end, climate change is the big one. However, again, because of the war in Ukraine, and you have a lunatic, Putin, and a populace that's so ill-informed, maybe they are willing, to pull the trigger, so to speak. I mean, he wants to stay in power, and this war helps him do that, but he doesn't want to lose. And if he's going down, he might say, well, we're going. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. If you look at the numbers there, they're fairly even, and given a larger sampling, I don't know what it would have been, but I don't see any one of these that would go over the 50% mark. So I thought that was really, really interesting. All right. Yes, so I also wanted to show you a quick shot of our last show with Dave. I thought that was kind of important too. That was the show we had T-Bone, Kevin Wheeler on. I believe Veg was on the show and Dave was on. So we'll take a quick peek at that. I want Dave on here no matter what. He's not here. It'd be good to see him on here. Veg may have left at the time, or maybe he wasn't on this particular show. I can't really remember. Veg, you would be able to tell me yourself more than I would know. So let's check this out. And that was the last show with Dave. And, he kind of mentions it. I'm the optimist. But he essentially was saying they're bad days. That he wasn't talking about himself, but just about the whole thing. And we had talked about this last week in our show, about how all of these things can add up to things that make us very distressed. And he saw that. I mean, he the optimist, he felt it. I mean, whether that's the cause or not, again, I don't want to get into that, but the very fact that he brought that up, I thought was interesting. And that was the last time we had seen each other, as far as, visually. It was it. So I did want to show that with you, and I think you'll appreciate it, because it's important, because he was a big part of this year, even if it was only 5 months out of the year. And that's another thing, is that if you think about it, or if I think about it, we haven't seen Dave for 7 months. That was in May. His birthday's in March, so I'd like to think that he'd be back by March. It would be really, really nice. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe sooner. So let me go to the comment sections here, folks, and I'm going to kind of go forward in time. Let's see what we have here. We got a lot of thank you, Sandy. You can see it, I guess, in my face. It was brighter here. I just, one day in July, I remember I got on the scale, and I've lost weight before, but not like this. I haven't lost any weight in the last 2 weeks, but I haven't gained any weight. But it's just something that I got on the scale one morning, and sorry, folks, I'm just not sure. I got on the scale. I think it was like the 1st of July during the summer, and I said, "That's it. I'm going to go on a diet." And I ate sensibly. I didn't do any starvation. I didn't cut out, a whole day of meals. I could have done that, but I didn't do that this time. And I started losing, I would say 4 pounds a week. And I say I've lost 47 pounds. But the last week or two, I've kind of plateaued. And I don't know why it's been that way. I've eaten a little bit more. I still exercised. But I hope to lose another 20 pounds, and then I'll probably stop, because that's pretty much where I want to go with it. My waist went down like 4 inches. So here we go, T-Bone. That was a fun night. It was a fun night. That was very difficult for Dave, of course, and because we were in the green room prior to the show, T-Bone. But it was difficult for him. I don't know that you all could see that. It was difficult for him that night. He came on. He called me and said, I'm gonna try to go on today. He wanted to do that. Yeah, he did actually, Matt. That reminds me, Dave did do his part of the show one time from his toilet. That's Dave, Yeah, Dave's got thick skin. He's good with stuff. The old shitty cam. You know what? That just shows evolution and growth. And we know what's going to happen with Veg's channel. He's going to have that great camera. It's going to be. I can't wait. I mean, I'm happier for him than he probably is for himself about this. I just think he really deserves to have a great camera. He's got a funny punch. I watched his video today. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Seems like we're having a lot of car talk out there. That was an awesome show, what I remember. Right. Well, it was very busy, T-Bone, if you remember, because we had at least 4 people. I kind of think Veg was on that show. I'd have to go back to it. But it was very dynamic because we had that many people. When you have 5 people on. And Kevin, he's got all this kind of energy. Kevin, in fact, contacted me a couple days ago. He says he'd like to come back on the show, so we'll have to have him on sometime. So maybe we'll have a reunion, or maybe it was the show that affected Dave. I don't know. Bella, how are you doing? The turning of the year, all things are new. Opportunities for change abound, and we're still fucked. Yeah, well, yeah. There is opportunity. I don't know what it is with the new year. I mean, everybody has this conception or perception about the new year and resolutions, rebirth in the middle of winter. I guess it's what you make of it, you know. It is just another trip around the sun for the planet itself. But like the clouds for me, you know, it's kind of like a warning, but it's a good warning. It's like death. It's there to warn you, you know, that this thing is temporal, and you got to make the most of it. It was interesting. I don't know if any of you've seen this movie. I think it was on Netflix. I watched it last night before I fell asleep, and then the rest of it today. It was called White Noise. It was this absurd drama, but it was kind of like a metaphor for how Americans are, in general, you know, frightened of their mortality. And the suggestion is that people will occupy themselves with discussion, communication, purchases, whatever they do to avoid the thought of dying. And one of the characters in the movie, I don't know her name, but she played opposite, what's his name? Adam. Geez, I fell off a cliff again here. Well, in any case, she is just mortified about her mortality. And she takes this drug called Dylar, which is kind of interesting, you know, with the personification of the pill, Dylar, to help with the anxiety of, you know, one's mortality. But it did occur to me, I mean, I don't know personally if all the things we do are related to trying to divert our attention from our own mortality. But I think some of it's important, you know, and you can see as you watch it, it is like an absurd presentation. At the same time, it's giving it, you know, it's making an important point, is that in anything that we find difficult to face, you know, there is this diversion that we would have. We try to diverge, and perhaps it helps us survive, you know, that we, you know, don't have to think about such things, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting to watch the movie. I just found it interesting because it is something to think about in terms of, you know, how as human beings psychologically we have these defense mechanisms. I personally think that right now what's going on in Russia is, for many of these people who are ill-informed, it may not be that they're ill-informed. They are ill-informed simply because there's only one type of media. But more importantly, they are completely distracted. Okay, the war itself is a distraction for them, but the defense mechanism probably comes in where you have a frightened public, especially the older people, because they lived during, you know, the Soviet Union and under Brezhnev. And in the interesting thing about Brezhnev is he ruled for 18 years, and that seemed like a forever, and Putin's been in for 22. So that's something to think about. But again, going back to these defense mechanisms, perhaps that has something to do with what's going on in Russia right now, is that there's this fear that, you know, they're going back, they're afraid of these things and so forth. So what they do is they react in a way to defend it. It's the way to survive. It's because you really only have two choices when you're confronted with, you know, bullshit like what's going on over there, or bullshit here with Trump and whatever. You either, one, fight it, or two, you flee. It's fear versus growth. I'm not saying which is the better to do, but this is why you had 300,000 people going to the border, because they don't want to be mobilized. So the movies that I watched today is not too much unlike human behavior, how we try to push those things, just like our thoughts. We have these ghosts that keep reappearing in our heads. Not the, of course, the ghosts that you and I would think of, but the real ghosts, the things from the past, and we try to push them away, and it's unavoidable because they're going to keep coming. Max, I didn't answer that poll. I did write my own thing, fill in the blanks. Like, kind of gentler people do we have to end the world yet? Did answer the poll. I did write my own thing, fill in the blanks. A kinder, gentler people do we have to end the world yet? We're going to find out, Max. We're going to find out. We keep going on like this, going to happen, but frankly, for all of us, is going to end anyway. So, but you do want to leave it better for those who come after, because they're just you and me, a later version. I couldn't vote. I'm for a future. Well, maybe I should have put something in there, one of the choices. Like, this won't happen. I should have done that. So thank you, Epi. I think in the future I'll know to have an escape clause in the poll. All right. Listen to, thank you. Victims of climate change. For all of those who are going to stay up tonight, Sandy's got a show at 11:30. Happy Doom Year. It's actually not very funny. Well, Max, you might not want to watch that if you're trying to keep positive, or whoever was trying to keep positive in that thing. But what is. And whether it's climate change or Ukraine, it certainly doesn't look good right now. All right, let's go to some more of the comments. You have Kim here. Cheers. Veg's latest video looked better, maybe a little tweak to the color, but better. I don't think he used his new camera yet, though. Maybe he hasn't got it yet, but I didn't see him use it yet. I could be wrong, but I think he's using his old camera, at least from what I saw, from appearance. Will be memorable. Neighbors are already shooting off fireworks here. Well, it may be guns. Hell, it's Florida. Yep, it's guns. Yeah, I'm laughing, but it's a nervous laughter. But you're right, T-Bone, and it's not just in Florida. I have little Florida, a few blocks from me, because Sunday morning the guns start. Because Christians who are going to go to church at 10, they want to get up at 5 and 6 in the morning and shoot deer and turkeys. It's kind of interesting, the ritual of going to church and hunting. In fact, near where I live is a place called Vineland, New Jersey, and as you approach Vineland, you'll see a church, and right next to it is a place called Butch's Gun Shop. They're just so related. Guns are so America, just like Sunday church, I suppose. But yeah, people, they got to frighten the dogs and stuff. I'm just glad it's raining here, because these fireworks just terrify everybody. Cheers, Kim. The Year of the Rabbit, according to the Oriental Zodiac. They shoot them here too, sadly. I just don't get that, I just don't get people. It's bad enough to eat it, but now you have to torment it before you eat it, or not even eat it. Anxiety is so easy to develop these days. The news definitely plays a large part with all the awful things they've found on day after day. Yeah, I mean, that's true, Karen. At least, during World War One, there were a lot of crazy things going on, but you had to wait 3 weeks to get the report from the front, right? Now, we are bombarded with the news. Even though we have a choice of really what we want to watch, I mean, you can get your news from your favorite source, and you can click what you want to click. But sooner or later, you have the shootings, the Kyle Rittenhouse, and all that, and it's just unavoidable. Excuse me, I need to get a wee bit of water. Excuse me. When you're really thirsty, you're grateful that you have water. All right. I watched the most hysterical divorce-based movie ever, and I loved The War of the Roses. Everything, everywhere, all at once. If I could have a small amount of mushroom, it would have been on the menu. Trev, good to see you. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll have to watch the rerun tomorrow at Sisters Visiting. Okay, Trev. Feel sorry for the animals tonight. There you go. We're on the same wavelength, synchronicity. Feel sorry for the animals tonight. Anxiety on level high. Yeah, I mean, it's just torment. I mean, I still don't get that. You know what I mean? It's just, I've said this so many times, but to think of these poor deer, they get injured, they get killed, and then they're constantly being chased by hunters. I mean, it's no way to live. It's bad enough as it is. And then all they've got to say for it is, yeah, but I eat it. Yeah, but you're tormented. I mean, if you're going to shoot it, put it out. One shot. There's a price. Suffering. But that's a great comment, T-Bone, because you're thinking it, You're thinking it. Yeah, 4th of July is worse. No doubt about that. 4th of July is worse, but they're all bad. And Sundays in general are bad around here. It's little Florida out here. It's like Central Florida in this county. And I could deal with the noise, ladies and gentlemen. I really could. I can get back to sleep, but it's the idea of you don't just shoot at 5 a.m. to shoot. You're trying to put a hole through something. Just minding its business. Eating a leaf. And you just got to torment it. Where's Dick Cheney when you need him, right? Yeah, well, it's like you said. I'm not trying to put down Florida, T-Bone, but in some places, they take every opportunity to do that kind of crap. You got to light the fireworks. In fact, I remember going down I-95, and as soon as you got to like North Carolina, the number of places to buy fireworks was just unbelievable. Here you had to get it on the sly somewhere, but I mean, these places, like this place called South of the Border, it's actually, I think, in South Carolina. It's like halfway between Maine and the tip of Florida. All they sell are fireworks. Just fireworks. I don't get it. I mean, I used to shoot firecrackers and M80s. Not M80s. Well, I guess I did a few of those cherry bombs when I was like 12. And I started getting it, The neighbor blew his fingers off. Bomb is going off here. I hope my dog is doing okay in her new home. Yeah. People. They suck, right? A lot of good people, right? And we can say that, but people are really shitty. They're cultivated to be shitty, but they're shitty. At least the fourth happens when it's warm. This first step in all the gun shooting going to happen when it's cold. All the best for 2023, okay. Doggy earplugs, you know, just... You know, I was watching this documentary today. It was about some convict from England, and he was like the biggest badass in England. He was a professional boxer at one time. And he was violent. He was in jail like 28 different times. He died from cirrhosis of the liver because he was a big drinker, but he was always physically nasty with people. And even people who commented in the comment section were from England. They knew him something. They said what an asshole he was. But it was interesting because they did show one of his professional fights. He was doing real well, and then finally he was up against the top boxer from England, heavyweight class, back in the 1980s, I think. And he started getting pummeled. And instead of fighting on, he turns his back and he gives up. Now, I could understand if a boxer gives up, they know they don't have it. I've seen it happen. But here's a guy who made a living off beating the shit out of people and going to jail for it, prison for it. But when he comes up against somebody his own size, and the guy starts licking him, what's the first thing he does? He gives up. I just thought that was kind of ironic. And I guess the point I'm making is these people that have to fire these guns, if they were pointed at them, it would be a different story. You know, it's always the advantage. So it's always the Kyle Rittenhouse advantage. You know, where he can walk like a big man, but without it, the real Kyle Rittenhouse would come out. And even if he had it and others had it, he wouldn't have been there. Oh, I hate that kid. Hate him. Seems like it, but here we are together being social. Maybe we have a chance. Or maybe Max, not to keep going back to this movie, the conversation helps us cope with it. And we have to, as the movie said, we have to pretend that there's hope. Because without it, it consumes you. And I think that's the beauty of the movie, if there is a beauty in that movie, because it doesn't have like a great rating. 6 out of 10. But I think it's the idea that, you know, again, we have this mortal fear of death, but we have to be able to, in order to deal with it, you have to either divert your attention or to accept it in some way. And we all do it in some kind of way. I just keep busy. I mean, I don't want to think about my death. I know it will occur. But just being able to commiserate with all of you, it helps you along that line of life. Because the alternative is so much worse. Yeah, I will do that. I will do that, Effie. I have thick skin, folks. By the way, I do like criticism, because if it's warranted, it only helps me out. I watched an old movie, The Postman, the other day, hoping that we don't come to that in the future. If we do, I'm hoping that it comes to a good future for those who are left. Kevin Costner movie. Yeah, Kevin Costner, you know, I with him, I think he's a conservative. I'm not sure, but I think he is. So now I actually do look, you know, who's starring in these movies. There's some people I can't deal with. I mean, James Woods, conservative, I won't watch it. Others, can't deal with them. If they're assholes, I won't watch it. I'm not saying Costner's an asshole, but I think he's a conservative. I blew up a toilet in junior high school with a cherry bomb. I lit quite a few cherry bombs. I never brought to school. And there were some kids who did, and they did blow up the toilets, yeah. They're not as powerful as M80s. M80s will really do some damage. Oh, they were horrible. Yeah. Burgess Meredith, yeah, I remember that one. That should be on tonight, right? From this day on, I owned my father's gun. We dug his shallow grave beneath the sun. I laid his broken body down below the southern land. It wouldn't do to bury him where any Yankee stands. I do not fear death. I've been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born. And not suffered the slightest inconvenience. Right. That's true. What we're really afraid of, in the end, is dying and the suffering. That's what we should be afraid of. That's the part you don't want. No problem being dead. You're not going to suffer the worst for it, but knowing you're on the way and having issues, Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah. So this year, and I'm going to be frank with you here, a lot of people are very good with dates and remembering everything, and for better or for worse, I never kind of thought in those kind of terms. I mean, I remember when the 60s rolled into the 70s, when I'd have to write a paper in elementary school. I would still write in the 60s. I couldn't get myself to remember we're in the 70s because I wasn't thinking about dates. Now, Joey, of course, you know dates really, really well. I know that. And that's a great thing you do, Joey. But again, for the better or for the worse, I tend not to think about things. I had to see those things from CNN to remember. Oh, now I remember the Olympics. Oh, now I remember. I do remember certain. I know January 6th. I know February 24th. But if most of you are date-centric, where you do remember the dates, I'm not like that, and it's just all one big thing to me. We were talking about music last time with Ken and a few other people. We were talking about Allan Holdsworth, and Allan Holdsworth was a brilliant musician, a brilliant composer of music, but he didn't know how to read music, or at least not very, very well. And the way he approached creating songs was different than most people. There's usually a certain way jazz musicians, throw their chords together. This is called progressions, right? And they follow certain progressions. Well, Holdsworth didn't want to think that way. He wanted to create his own systems. He did mathematics. He charted things out. He did things in his own way. So the way that he would understand something, would not be of any use to anybody else but himself. And what I'm getting at here is, he said all these things about timings, and I played with all these people in bands. They'd say, this song's in 4/4, this is in 12/8, or whatever the time signature was. He said, I don't read. And he says, frankly, when I write songs, I think of it as everything's in one. In other words, one beat, one beat, one beat, one beat. And for him, it was important because that one beat meant I'm in the moment, and then this is my next moment, and the next, whether he's playing another chord, another series of notes, or a rest, he saw things in the very immediate time sense. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way he looked at it. And when we get to the end of the year, it's very difficult for me to look back and say, wow, this is one hell of a bad year, or this is one hell of a great year, because quite frankly, I can't even tell the difference between 22 and 21. It doesn't mean anything to me until I see things in a more lengthy viewpoint. I know the 60s, I know the 70s, I know the 80s. I'm not really good with particular years. So this year for me, aside from February 24th, which was the invasion of Ukraine, there's only a few things I think about. If somebody had died. This year it's just been Dave. I think, if you look, he's been out for 7 months. If I say, oh, if I'm going to look back at this year, the only thing that's going to help me remember this year is those 7 months. And that's why, for example, this is the 152nd show of Divided We Stand, but the one that's going to, reverberate in my brain is the show with T-Bone, Veg, Kevin, and David, because it involves Dave. That was, at the time, we weren't sure what was going to happen, whether he was going to be on the next week or not. As it turned out, no. But that day was important. And at the moment, I didn't know it was important. And that's why we have to, I think, in general, and I'm talking about myself, again, I'm not here to lecture anybody. As I see it, when you look at these events, say in the past year, they keep coming up, it's just the way time works anyway. The Olympics, Russia invades, this happens, this happens, this happens. So there's one thing you can be assured of. We've got that coming. And not all of it's good. But what do we do? Just like that movie White Noise that I was talking about. Maybe we have to distract ourselves. Maybe that's also what they're saying. Just like, for example, myself, I've been particularly fortunate that I don't really, up until this point, get depressed. I get very angry and disappointed with the world and with people in general, but it hasn't hit me yet. But that's no victory for me, as I said, because those around me, people I care for, have it. And until they're better, I'm not better either, because I have to have some empathy for that. But this thing called Divided We Stand, and in a certain sense, like when Veg was talking about, I forget exactly how he put it, but there is this, there's this thing that happens if you watch Veg's videos or T-Bone's. There's this certain sense of, we know it's shitty and we're trying to do our part to deal with this thing. So there's a certain similarity between the channels. We all do it in our different way. I do like the live thing. Veg has his way of doing, the backgrounds and going from topic to topic, and then you have T-Bone with his. You have these, just these vibrant video displays, and then the philosophical commentary. So we all do it in a different way, but I suppose that's our way of being able to deal with this. Maybe I don't even know that about myself, that this is something that's going to help me survive. If I didn't have this, what would I be doing? I don't know. Or maybe I'm overestimating this. But, despite the fact that I'll have 25 views for this, it doesn't matter. As we said last week, I think all three of us agreed that it's about what you find important in doing it and trying to do it well, which wasn't so great tonight because I didn't have a plan for tonight's show because I wasn't sure it was going to come on. But all I'm saying is, it's doing this kind of thing. I think it's helpful for all of us. We learn from each other. and we can commiserate. The smoke is thick in the air here from fireworks. People running around. Looks like the invasion of Iraq all over again. Plumes of smoke and yelling. It looks like the good side of Trump rally. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So many old end of the world movies. Seems like they're playing more of these in the last 2 years. Well, you know, it's probably a mirror image of our society. .5 hours. I'm still out of. I didn't know you were in Facebook jail, Kim. You must have cursed, right? Either that or went off on somebody, right? That's what usually gets you in trouble, and what you say. I've been kind of lucky the way I just kind of thread the needle when I say things. I'm now when I do type commentary or post something, I always think, well, how can I creatively say this so I don't get in a lot of trouble? Especially when, you know, my commentary is against these people I really don't like. You know, with the Kyle Rittenhouses and Mnuchin and Bannon and Trump, all that kind of crap. You know, how do you pull that off? And yet, try to be as striking as possible. Yeah, Cambridge Analytical, well, they were good with, I mean, they're very good with marketing and demographics and psychographics. That's just the way things go right now. You know, you analyze things and you make connections. Every bit of it does help. Right? There are a lot of good videos out there about Cambridge Analytical. They had something to do with it, yeah. Russians too. I can't get the comments up here. 2 live streamers and 2 video creators. We have enough to keep us all informed and entertained. Yeah, I mean, you know, nowadays I get all my climate stuff from Sandy stuff. I mean, I just go on Environmental Coffee House, and all I have to do is check the page out, and I'm up to date. It's very, very useful. I used to have to just do it myself and keep searching. I used to go to Cryosphere Today, a site from, I guess it was from Indiana University. They don't have it anymore, but I go right to Sandy's page when I need information. Yeah, I think we're running out of comments here. So listen, you know, I only plan to come on for an hour tonight, and that's basically what I've done here. And I just wanted to touch bases with you about Dave. And again, if you're late to the show here, I did speak with Dave for about 3 or 4 minutes. And he wants to be okay. He really does. He cares. And we care. We'll see what happens. But it's encouraging, even if it was only 3 minutes. You know. Yeah. If only for 3 minutes. It's something. So, anyway, it's a 10:15 here. I want to wish everybody a wonderful rest of the night, if you can deal with it. I guess, T-Bone, you're going to have the roughest one because you were in, Central Florida. And you got the shoot 'em up night, right? The minute you tell them to knock it off, then they'll come after you, right? It's crazy. Nothing against Florida. It's just, say we've got little Florida here. Yeah. All right, now how do I want to take you out of here? I think I'm going to, I did actually fly my drone for the first time in a year. and maybe I'll take us out with that. Nah, you know what? It wasn't such a great video. Thanks for coming for me, but you're welcome, T-Bone. I had to do that. Let me get a drink here. So I'm going to take us out with an oldie. Thank you, Kim. You guys are great. You know, you really are. You know, we help each other out in our own way. Reasonable people. That's all you can ask for in these days. So, what are you sniffing? It was real right. Glad to see you happy. Yeah, I would have had a more interesting show again, but I did not plan to come on tonight. I was just debating it, but I did want to tell you about Dave, and I did want to show a couple of videos with Dave on here. The right thing to do. So I'm going to take us on our outro of a drone video that I made, I want to say 3 years ago at Delaware Bay. And it was at sunset. It was like blood red that night. I mean, it was literally, thank you, Joey. But it was a great video. I mean, I had it at 4K. And the sun was so low, everything looked fire red. It was amazing that night. It was really amazing. So I'll see you guys next year, hopefully. And if it's not a better year, thank you. It'll be a year, and we'll just deal with it and distract ourselves in our own way. Pleasure's a lot better than suffering, right? Yeah. All right, Joey, behave yourself, all right? Okay. Yeah. See ya. I think.
Den där lion, il y a une